Thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Emily Lewis. I'm a landscape architect and planner with Du Bois and King, just down the street, and also a Randolph resident. I'm joined by my colleague Andrea Haynes.
Hi, also landscape architect with Du Bois and King, and not a Randolph resident, but
a Randolph worker.
a Randolph worker.
Mark Rosalbo, Economic Development Director for the town of Randolph, and I live here.
And not with us today, but part of the project are Ashley Andrews, who's our VTrans coordinator, John Kaplan with Walk Bike Roll, and then our colleague Jenny Austin, transportation engineer. And so we're here to talk about sidewalks in Randolph. The goal is to we're here. The goal is to provide safe pedestrian access to and from downtown for residents and visitors in 3 project areas within the town. Looking at Weston Street, Park Street from approximately Wallace Hill Road to the recreation fields, and South Main Street from the Gifford Thrift Store to the Justin Morgan Plaza. And we'll have more in-depth maps of that coming up. So just want to go over what a scoping study is, kind of what this project achieves. A scoping study investigates a specific facility, whether it's sidewalks or something else, to develop further. It comes up with kind of preliminary designs and provides costs to be able to budget, and then allows the municipality to submit to the state for state and federal grant awards. So after this project, if the town decides to move forward with any of it, then the town is able to then submit a grant application to the state for additional funding for final design and construction. So this project follows up on several either prior or ongoing projects, including the walk audit done with Walk Bike Roll a couple of years ago, the in-street pedestrian signs, and then upcoming or ongoing is the Walk Bike Master Plan that was done by the Two Rivers Ottaquechee Regional Commission, which Mark will talk about a little bit later as well, to kind of talk about how this all ties in together. Thought we did have a full project area map here, but so back in, I guess, early spring, late winter, we had a local concerns meeting where we came and asked people to provide their input on these different project areas, concerns that they had, things that they might like to see. Simultaneously, we had a public survey that had about 90 respondents asking questions about each of those 3 project areas. How often do you travel them, whether it's by car, by foot, by bike, and how often you do that? If you do travel along those corridors, do you feel safe? And if you feel unsafe, what things would make you feel safer or encourage you to walk and bike? And I'll zoom in a bit on these as well, because they're pretty hard to see.
If there's anyone that is in need of a hard copy because they can't see that, I'm happy to provide. I do have 5.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah. So I won't go over all of these in depth, but you can see here, we split Weston Street up into 2 segments from South Main Street, including Hale, and to just before Ladd's Auto, and then from Ladd's down to School Street. So you can see here in the dark blue is never utilize that corridor, red is rarely, orange is monthly, green is weekly, and purple is daily. And then this was how safe people felt from 1 to 5, 1 being very unsafe and 5 being very safe. And then looking at things that would encourage you to walk or bike or feel safer. Sidewalks, crosswalks, speed bumps, signs for bicycles or pedestrians, and signs and speed signs. Again, this is that west side of Weston Street. Same questions. And so this is for Park Street. You see a lot more people, few more people use Park Street than Weston. This had a much higher number, probably corresponding to how much people use it of not feeling safe. And then for South Main Street, this was certainly the area that was the most utilized by the people who responded. And also people feel quite unsafe there. And then kind of summarizing all of those, let's see if I can get to that a little bit. We had a final question that asked people to rank their priorities, and it required people to rank each one from high priority, medium priority, low priority, and lowest priority. And so I do want to caveat that this is great information to have. It does only reflect those people who responded to the survey. Those who didn't may certainly have different opinions for what their priorities are. So this isn't the only thing that we take into account when we're doing this. It's just another data point that is useful. So then we're going to start talking about the first project area and Weston Street from South Main to Lads, and including Hale Street to the Senior Center. And Andrea will take us through the alternatives we have there. Here, just some photos starting from Main Street, kind of going down through that corridor, showing some of the existing conditions. All right, Andrea.
All right. Do you want to swap? So
Sure.
Okay. So starting with alternative one. So alternative one is Weston Street, and we're beginning at the eastern end of Weston Street. So starting at South Main Street and including Hale, and then up to Ladd's Auto. So that's like the project area that we looked at. So then we go through a series of alternatives and we look at different options and what are the difficulties, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. So the first one we looked at, alternative one, would be having a sidewalk run along the south side of the street, then turn down Hale, and then also continue on the south side up to Ladd's Auto. So one of the challenges that we have here is that I think if we go back, we can see, so on the top left picture is Atlantic Art and Glass. I think I'm getting that name right. So there's a parking lot right there, and it's utilized by a lot of people. And there's also snow removal that needs to happen. And so there was a concern that if we put a sidewalk, a raised sidewalk there, that the snow removal would not work. It would just be too crowded with the amount of parking that's there. So what we looked at is doing something that's flush so that it could still move, like cars could move in and out and a snowplow could move in and out. So some of the options we looked at were removable bollards, painted walkway, so that red striping, and then also a flush concrete is another option. So that's what would happen right where like the letter A is there. Does everyone see? Does this all make sense so far? Okay, great. So moving to the next image here. So these are a couple sections. So on the left here, at the top left, that's the existing condition. Currently, the road width is 29 feet. So in alternative one, we would be proposing that the sidewalk run on the south side So that's on the left. So the bottom left drawing there. On the left side, you can see proposed sidewalk right here. And you can see that the travel lanes have shrunk down to 11 and 11.
Might
And
need
then-
to zoom in a little bit more.
Yeah, can everyone see that?
Please, if you need us to zoom in at all, please feel free to
Yes.
yell out. No, it's
Jump in.
kind of a distance to be able to see up there.
So does that make sense to everyone? We're shrinking those so that we can have that sidewalk. Okay. And then just looking at further down on Weston Street, so section D is getting close to Hale Street. We're just looking at the fact that there's a very narrow existing sidewalk there. It's like 3 feet with a green strip. So that's the existing condition on the top right. And then the proposed would be a full 5-foot width sidewalk. So it would start at the art and glass as a flush condition, so either painted or a flush concrete. And then it would be a regular raised sidewalk once you got past there, turning down Hale, and then regular sidewalk up till Ladd's Auto, all on the south side. So any questions so far? Yeah.
Have you considered putting the sidewalks on the movie theater side?
Yes.
That's what you're
for a
about to
little
see
while?
next.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
walk Weston Street 4 times a week, so.
So we have 2 more alternatives
Yes.
for this section. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you. We'll go right into those next.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody understood what we're looking at so far. Okay, so for alternative 2, what we looked at is the north side of the street. So we do have some similar challenges where starting at about 7 Weston Street, there's a series of like garage type buildings where they have garage doors, multiple driveways. So that also needs to be accessible, and we can't have a raised sidewalk in front of there. So it's a very similar challenge and condition as the glass studio. So what we're proposing is the same, some kind of flush condition. And in this alternative, we're starting on the north side, so next to the theater, going down to Hale, and then crossing at Hale. Yeah.
But can the side, in this alternative, can the sidewalk by the movie theater be a real sidewalk and not just flush? And I say that because cars are whipping around that corner all day, so
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
you kind of need them to not
Yeah, yeah.
strike someone, even just because the movie theater's right there, people loiter on that corner, myself included. So people, I would think it would be important to have a raised sidewalk.
In that portion, yes. So actually, if you go back to the last page, Andrea.
Yeah.
So from here, from Main down to about where this arrow is, that is where it would be raised sidewalk. And then this portion here is where we're proposing it would be flush.
Much
Yeah.
So basically just where you have those really large driveways that you would really impede the flow in and out.
I'm concerned about having a flush sidewalk by Atlantic Art because it is next to Main Street and it just invites traffic to be a little crazier.
That's why we're looking at a couple of options for that. If it were to go flush along there, you could have temporary bollards that are there, 3 seasons, get removed in the winter, so to allow for the movement of snowplows within it. So it's maybe not an ideal option, but it is an option that
Yeah.
could be looked at.
There is one other little wrinkle of complexity right there at that corner is that there's a 10-foot easement for access to the lot behind there. So we can't do like something to wrap around and be raised, for example, that would be like a protective spot for people. So it would have to be removable bollards or paint. Like we can't put a permanent structure of any kind. So on the top left here, section A is the second alternative where the sidewalk is running along the north side. So this is the existing condition here. It's a tiny bit of sidewalk now. And then what we're looking at is again shrinking those travel lanes so that you can fit a full sidewalk on that north side. And then this is just further down Weston, we have this existing with small sidewalk. And then we'd have a raised sidewalk on that north side, and then the existing bit of sidewalk on the south side, on the left there. Okay. All right, so alternative 3 is splitting this up in order to avoid these flush conditions. So what we would do is we would start on the north side, have a raised sidewalk up until about 3 Weston Street, and then crossing over, going along the south side, and then turning down Hale, and then in all of these after Hale, it just continues on the south side. The big motivation here was to have a safe route to get to the senior center, so that's a big part of why we're looking at Hale and keeping it on the south.
I will also add in kind of the reason why we split it up right around Ladd's Auto is for 2 reasons. One, that's right around where the bulk of the residences end. And then once you get past there as well, the road narrows and the buildings get very close to the road. Which we'll see a little bit in the next one. So that was kind of the reasoning for why it ended at that point. And if this were to be one of the alternatives, one of the sections that's prioritized, it could even be split into further phases, from Main to the senior center, and then secondarily from Hale down. So there are a couple of options for that.
Okay. So project area, do we want to discuss the first one?
Let's finish up with
Okay.
Weston, and then we'll just do it all in one.
So with the rest of Weston Street, so as Emily was saying, we split it up into these sort of 2 different land use areas. So on the west side, it's mostly old railroad buildings, more industrial. And then we are looking at this intersection of School Street with the railroad. It's very complicated and messy. And we heard people feel very unsafe there. So here's just some of the conditions. This is right before Ladd's Auto. This is these railroad buildings that are right up against the road practically. This is when you first approach that intersection with the railroad tracks. And then this is from...
It's just a little bit further back.
Okay, that's further back.
Same view.
Okay, so all that we're proposing, we're not proposing to try to build like any kind of raised sidewalk here. There's just not enough room to add any additional pavement. So what we're proposing here is to just make some improvements, pedestrian improvements at the railroad crossing and School Street intersection. So that would mean adding, so we have the existing sidewalk that comes down School Street, ends right here. So we're proposing a crosswalk here, and then pedestrians kind of do this now, walking along here, and then just adding a crosswalk here, so then you can get to Weston Street. And then on Weston Street, we would just add some painting, not adding any additional pavement because it's so narrow. It would just be a shared pedestrian car. It's just some paint to, warn people that pedestrians might be walking here.
And then stop sign up there.
Oh, and also we're proposing to add a stop sign at Thayerbrook Road. So people come down Thayerbrook Road at quite a speed, and we would like to put a stop sign there. And yeah, that's it for one. Okay.
We're happy to take any questions or any discussion on Weston Street, or we can also come back to that at the end.
What are you gonna do with the, people have beautiful flower beds on that side of the street. You're gonna make them, get rid of them?
On which side?
On the
South
south side, where you're putting your sidewalk. And there's also another house there that has a stone retaining wall. It's been there for years. What do you do in a situation like that?
Well, that's where one of the reasons why we're proposing narrowing those travel lanes rather than having where it's about 14 and a half feet per lane right now. If you bring those to a more standard 11-foot width, then you get some of that space back within the existing roadway to add your sidewalk to minimize
But in the wintertime, on
to
that
minimize
street,
impacts.
When the plow goes down through, after you've had 2-3 weeks of snow, the sides are gonna build up and it gets narrow anyway without the sidewalks.
I mean, it'll be a similar condition to your other roads within the town that are about the same width. So yeah, winter always makes it interesting in Vermont with any of this, so yeah.
I'm just asking for trouble. It'll be deaths.
And who maintains the sidewalks in the winter?
The town.
The town.
The town? Okay.
Good question.
Any other thoughts or questions? Yeah.
How would the narrowing of the road affect the turn off of Weston Street, onto Main Street? Right now, it kind of sucks. You don't have good visibility with cars parked in front of the Playhouse,
Right.
right? So you kind of swing out and go fast. I don't even think it's clear. And people take a wide swing in as well, because someone's always on your rear end going through town.
Is your
you have to be more vigilant, or?
Is your concern from Maine onto Weston or Weston onto Maine or both?
Both.
Um,
And if you guys aren't like traffic flow experts, you can pass the question.
yeah,
I don't think they did.
Well, a general rule of thumb is that when you have a smaller radius, people have to go slower.
Yeah,
You'll naturally go slower to navigate that tighter radius. So that is what we hope people will do. People generally don't want to crash their car,
No,
right?
you're coming onto the street, that makes sense, but leaving the street, the visibility is
It's bad.
bad.
It's very bad.
Yeah.
bad.
And, so is this going to affect leaving the street in any way? Or have we looked into anything to make exiting the street better? Even one of those big, silly, round mirrors posted on that abandoned building. I'd be happy with that.
They park in front of the Playhouse, diagonally.
right.
And you can't see anything coming up the road.
Yeah,
I think there are a couple of things. Well, one, we can certainly run turning movements there to confirm. So that would be something that we would recommend for the next phase of engineering. We can do some of that now, but that would be studied further before any of this would be implemented. The next stage would be the detailed engineering to look at all of the nuances of that. Something else that might be warranted would be considering eliminating some of those diagonal spots on Main Street if that is what is causing those visibility issues. I know Danville is doing something very similar right now where they are removing some of their parallel spots because of that type of issue. So that's something that may be warranted as well. And we can certainly note that in our report that that's something that should be considered or investigated.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Because I'm assuming traffic flow is largely out of your scope and non-putting in sidewalks. But if you could do a little research and just throw something in there, some recommendations,
Absolutely.
we'd be really happy.
Yeah.
yeah, this is preliminary
Yeah.
before it, goes to that that level of
Yeah.
detail.
But yeah, we can do some turning movements just to kind of confirm if that, what would happen if that got narrowed or if you needed to stay a little bit wider at the intersection and then it narrows, which it already does narrow as you get further down Weston Street, but we can take a look into that. All right. Go ahead.
Anything else?
If you have more thoughts, please feel free to, when we get to the end, we can circle back as well.
Okay, so moving on to project area 2. This is Park Street from slightly before Wallace Hill intersection down to the recreation fields. There is currently sidewalk that ends right here at the Wallace Hill Road intersection. And there's some remnants along here as well, and an existing crosswalk right here. So these are just some photos of the existing conditions. This is looking to the right is Wallace Hill, park to the left. There's the sidewalk ends right about where this cursor is. This is the existing crosswalk looking back toward the Wallace Hill intersection. This is the recreation area entrance right here. And I can't even recognize this with the snow. Where's this one?
That is, you are standing at the intersection of Wallace Hill and Park, looking east down Park.
Thank you.
That's 33 minutes.
Okay, so all of these alternatives consider this reconfiguration of the Wallace Hill Road intersection with Park Street. This is something that was already being considered as part of a repaving project for Park Street. Currently, there is this little slip lane right here for people to come through here. So this is a reconfiguration where we have the existing sidewalk ends right here at this red square. And so there would be a new bump out. So therefore narrowing that distance that pedestrians have to cross. And then this slip lane would sort of cease to exist and just become yard. And then this bumps out so that this distance is greatly reduced and there's not this double crossing thing where you have to cross two different roads and not be quite sure where cars are coming from. People also make U-turns here, which is not very safe.
And also, it forces people to make more of that 90-degree turn rather than just continuing straight either up or down Wallace Hill.
And then just another enlargement that we have here on this page is having, and this is in all the alternatives, a small bump out to extend. So currently the stop sign when you're exiting the recreation area is way down here. So every car has to pull all the way up to here in order to see, in order to have the visibility to turn either way. So this is creating a bump out for pedestrians to get to.
And just again to orient people,
Oh, yeah.
the other driveway along there, that is part of the loop driveway at the mobile homes there. So you have the two driveways that come together, and so this is delineating them as two separate driveways rather than just one large one at that point.
Yeah, currently it's just very unclear what's happening. You're just kind of in the middle of space. Okay, so for alternative one, this is proposing a 5-foot curb sidewalk running along the south side. The crossing would actually be back here near 16 Park Street because if you cross, we checked the sight distances and for the speed that people are going on this road, there's not enough visibility. There's a required number of feet for you to be able to see the person and stop in time. And if you try to cross here, there's just, because of these curves, it's just not a safe place to cross. So this is where cars have enough visibility. So we would have to actually cross back here, and then the south side sidewalk would start at this point and run all the way along to the recreation area. So,
So I didn't understand what you just said there fit with your first slide, which has a crosswalk crossing Wallace Hill.
So this shows if this is a little misleading. This does show in the alternatives where you have the sidewalk on the north side.
Oh, sorry.
So,
Okay.
sorry, ignore those blue lines for this first alternative. You would still have the same configuration of the intersection, but you wouldn't have the sidewalk along the top here.
Okay,
Yeah.
So if you go here, I
there'd
can,
be no crosswalk across
that,
Wallace Hill.
yeah.
Yeah, so that sidewalk would theoretically just be for people going up Wallace Hill.
Okay,
So the
Road.
sidewalk,
Like, if you were gonna go to recreation area, you'd cross back further.
understood.
so the sidewalk currently still ends here. You still have the reconfiguration of Wallace Hill, but you don't have the sidewalk crossing up here. This one is if we just had everything on the south side, the crossing back here.
Yeah, sorry, that is very confusing.
I have a question.
Okay, so looking at the section, so here's section A, section D, just for reference for where we're gonna be looking. So top left here, we have the existing conditions, we have an existing sidewalk here. And then in the proposed, we would still have the existing sidewalk initially, and then the proposed sidewalk. But then this one on the right-hand side obviously ends at Wallace Hill. And then further down, near the mobile home park, this is the existing conditions. And this is actually quite worn from people walking on it currently. And then what the proposed would be is the sidewalk right here on this side, and replanted trees just in case, you know, we damage those trees there, putting in a sidewalk.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How would that section be apportioned between existing vehicle traffic lane and right-of-way?
There's actually no change to the travel lanes.
Okay, so it would be an all right-of-way.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because it's a state road, it's the right-of-way is actually 49 and a half feet.
Well, it turns into a state road. At this point, it's not yet.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Right, it's a village road to,
Yeah, till
Yeah.
just past the recreation fields.
yeah. So alternative 2 is the sidewalk really running along the north side. And then there would be that bump out and all that, the new sidewalks configured here as we showed. Running along, can 1 second? Running along the north side up until a crosswalk right at basically at the mobile home park, running along the south. And then just to take a look at what that would look like in section, the change for through that intersection. So currently, this is existing. You have to cross about 70 feet of paving, stand on this little island, cross another road. So then the new condition, this would be sidewalk and bump out. And then you're only crossing about 28 feet. And then you reach the new sidewalk. Yeah, do you want to ask a question about that one?
Yes. So if you could just increase the zoom to the bump out area, please.
The small one or the big, the Wallace Hill?
Wallace Hill.
Wallace Hill.
Sure.
So the way it appears to me is that that bump out would be right where there's currently a driveway.
Where's the driveway?
Circular driveway, right?
Right at the fire.
Right at the fire hydrant,
Right
Number
here?
one, Wallace Hill, right? Yeah.
1 Wallace Hill. It's a
Okay.
circular driveway, begins at the fire hydrant, and it looks like that bump out would be right in front of it.
Okay. Is it currently?
It's an existing driveway, yes.
Okay.
I talked to her about that.
Yeah.
We discussed that when you were,
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't remember that.
Yeah, there's a fire hydrant and then there's
Yeah.
a circular driveway that runs. So to me, it looks like it's right on top of a driveway.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. I don't have,
Yeah, and my second question is.
Yeah, we can we take a look at that and
Yeah.
and make
Yeah,
some
it's
refinements.
existing.
Okay, thank
Um,
you.
And the second question is, have you done a traffic study in that specific area where that turnaround is?
Mark, has there been a traffic
sorry, I
study
missed
then?
Repeat that?
Traffic study at that
Have you done
area?
a traffic study in that
Yes.
specific area where the turnaround is?
Yes, we have. The results indicated that that was probably that strip in front of, well, the primary focus was in front of where the rec fields are, but that was the worst in town in terms of violations of the speed
Yes, okay.
enforcement. So 33 miles an hour was the average speed heading eastbound and 36 westbound. So it is a serious issue.
Yeah, there is a serious issue, I think, for speed, and then there's also a serious issue with people actually stopping at that stop sign, so speed and
Coming
stop sign.
down Wallace
Coming down
Hill.
that hill,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, thank you.
And yeah, we know we heard at the prior meeting, anecdotally also of people that will fly up Wallace Hill heading west on Park Street to try to beat other cars that are continuing on Park Street. So it's
It goes the other way too. I watch the traffic sometimes in the morning and very few people stop
yeah.
at that stop sign. A lot of
Yeah,
them are
so
going
that was
pretty-
part of the rationale
good
for
quick.
reconfiguring that. So you have to make that straight turn so you're more perpendicular to the roadway before you turn, rather than just being able to continue straight.
And children going, it's mostly gonna be children going to this park,
Yeah,
Which aren't-
absolutely.
as, they don't look as well as adults.
Well, and they're so much smaller too. They're not as noticed as much either.
Mhm.
They come up to below the bumper of some trucks. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So alternative 3 is very similar to alternative 2. The main difference being that the crosswalk to cross to the south side would be where the existing crosswalk is.
We'll say some of the rationale for the location of sidewalks, the concern of sidewalks is, as you know, as we just said, Route 12 is a state road. I think the speed limit is 45, and then right before you get to the rec fields, it turns to, is it 35 or 25 at that point? I can't.
I think it's
25. It drops down. Because you're coming around a turn, it still takes a driver that reaction time for they see the speed limit, they slow down if they slow down, supposed to slow down. So we didn't want to have a crosswalk right at that rec driveway because that's getting still pretty close to that distance that people need to be able to slow down before they would get to that. So that's why we want to move that crosswalk further to the east. And where we had it in alternative 2 is as far west as we would recommend locating it.
Yeah. There's also this is it gets very narrow and there's a slope here, so there's definitely some wisdom in putting the crosswalk further to the east.
And stone walls and
Yeah, there's a
landscaping
stone
and-
wall and some landscaping.
Yeah.
We're not quite to the point of the landscaping and stone wall, but because of that speed coming down, yeah. The further east we can go is probably better. Okay, so in section, so this is just showing, existing sidewalk and then existing crosswalk. It's pretty similar condition. It's just that in the proposed, there would be a sidewalk on the south side and the north side, at least at that crossing point.
Any other questions regarding Park Street?
I have one, it's not really to do with this, but that side, where they have it, just the side of the fire station on Park Street, people don't stop there, and people coming from, the other section, coming by the fire station, there's a yield sign there, that should be a stop sign.
Yeah, that's pretty confusing.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I said, where people come on to Park Street by the fire station, that should be a stop sign. People just, it's a yield sign and nobody ever slows, few slow down.
Mm-hmm.
I know, because I cross there pretty near every day when I go for a walk.
How much are these
Yeah.
issues gonna get addressed?
And a lot of
in
people don't stop for that, for me, they just go right through.
Yeah.
engineering for the paving? Like you said, there's gonna be a rebuild of the road, right?
Yeah, so that's so after kind of fortunately Du Bois and King is also working on that project. So we are talking with our colleague who's in our transportation engineering department regarding that. So to coordinate timing of when these projects would happen so that if the paving project is going first, some of these concerns can get addressed within that rather than having to redo work or just try to make it more efficient within that. So there are several things that are going on at the same time, including the townwide report that we're trying to all kind of bring together to make sure that we have efficiencies within this as well. Yeah.
The crossing, either of the crossings on Park, going from north to south, could those be raised crosswalks as options? Where they actually become, in essence, a speed bump, but they're wide enough as a crosswalk, and not great for snow plowing, but I've seen those and they do work. And also that possibly could be a location for a push button, flashing light crossing area, just because it is very fast coming both sides.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
It's not like a village crossing really, it's much faster. So having a flashing beacon or something there, I don't know if that was part of this.
No, that's a great suggestion. I don't think we had discussed raised crosswalks.
Yeah, not
we-
specifically, but
Yeah, I think it's certainly something that we could add in as a possible recommendation that I know the town highway department would certainly want to have input in that as well. There are also you can also get grants to do test projects with that where you put temporary speed humps out to be able to see how does that work. Those can also be removed in the winter as well.
The traffic calming there is so critical because even where there is existing sidewalks there now, they're terrifying to walk on because you're so close to the cars and they're going really fast. So yeah, raised crosswalks or whatever, like street parking there, whatever. E-Trans will not want to hear it, but
Well, I mean, fortunately in this area, this is town owned.
yeah.
So you do have a little bit more flexibility with what you are able to do as opposed to, just on the other side of the park where it is town highway.
Also, could the speed limit be pushed back further and possibly have some type of beacon that's just, showing that,
yeah.
your speed kind of
Your
thing.
speed is right down,
But
yeah.
just push it back. Right now, I think it changes right at the entrance, which doesn't really make sense because that's a very
Yeah.
semi-congested area.
Yeah.
In and out, like it seems like if it could be pushed up. I know it goes uphill there, but so people pop over the hill and then down, but
Yeah, and
Like
that
even-
comes up again on South
even
on
30
South
feet
Main.
or something.
Yes, that's definitely a consideration. That takes, again, because you are in state highway, it's a little bit more complicated. But I think certainly something that would be beneficial to bring up with the state to have that conversation. Because I think there's very good justification for it. When we're talking about that distance to be able to slow down before you get to the rec area. Yeah, that's a great point as well.
Yeah.
I don't want to get ahead of you at all, but has money already been allocated to these projects? And if it has or has not, what are we talking about as timeline as far as getting these projects going? Is it months, years, or decades?
We'll when we get through the next section, Main Street, we'll talk a little bit about our preliminary cost estimates for that. And then I don't want to just kick everything over to the town, but that I have a little bit of information on timeline, but then ultimately it is a town decision as to how funding gets allocated and the timing of it. So.
Well, I could just say that once the master plan is complete, the ability to be able to go after grants, the ability to go after and figure out how to budget in for it can then take place. So without this step, it's very difficult to take the next one. So, but it is one of the priorities.
Blue
In
shirt?
regards to the trailer park.
Yeah.
And the sidewalk coming down on the side of the trailer park, the widths you're allowed to take and whatnot. It's a pretty good drop off right there, the trailers, and you've got the roadway that's pretty close from the trailer park to the roadway. So I would just be concerned about the runoff, the pitch, maintaining the access for the residents at the trailer park. I think there's some pretty good engineering right there.
Yeah, fortunately, there is a large planting area, so it could be pretty easily regraded to, where's my section?
Yeah.
There we go. So yeah, right now, this is an approximation of the condition where it does slope, yeah. There is a lot of right-of-way, and this is relatively easy to regrade to support a new sidewalk. We would probably impact those existing tree roots. So we are putting, replanted vegetation that would be budgeted as well for a project like this. And then, currently stormwater is coming right down.
Well, there's a berm there, and then it goes down to the driveways, and that's where you have your swale ways down to the river and whatnot. So that'd be
Yeah,
very
again, with
concerned
the-
at both ends.
Yeah, with the engineering, you'd have to make sure that that any additional stormwater doesn't go off onto that side, onto the mobile home park side, but rather comes to, is directed towards the roadway and into catch base, either existing or new catch basins within the roadway.
And the benefit of the raised sidewalk is then you have a barrier at the road level, so that's not gonna be, right now it's just flowing right down. So you would
No,
have.
there's an actual berm there, the way they've got it graded. It
At the
doesn't-
top?
It runs down at the ends.
The
It
top or
kind-
the
it
bottom
kind
of
of
the
crowns
hill?
and runs off either end, the
At
way
the-
they've got it designed now.
At the top or bottom
I
of
know,
that
yeah.
slope?
Your husband maintained
At the
it
top.
for a while. Yeah.
At the top, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's actually like a little brook that runs right there as well. That it goes down into the water, then into the brook area.
Okay.
Got it.
And I just had one more question
Yeah.
regarding the Park Street Park. Maybe I missed it, and I apologize if I did, but as an alternate, have you considered crossing the street farther up on Park Street rather than in the congestion area, so people would be on that other side already and avoiding the high traffic area?
So you mean further up here somewhere?
Correct. To me,
It
it
was-
seems reasonable to cross in a safer
Sure.
area and then already be on the park side and come down that way.
Yeah.
So we thought about that a little bit. The one concern that we had with continuing to push a crossing out there is you still have all the residents up at Wallace Hill, that if you're coming down, the likelihood of them walking all the way down Park Street, crossing, and then walking back is probably slim. So we want to think about what are the natural patterns that people walk? How can we get that somewhat close to that intersection, but still within a safe location? So that's part of why we were focusing on the crossing still within that area. But I certainly
For me, the
understand your
majority of
concern.
people that I have seen walking to the park from that area, it is, they're actually coming from town and not from Wallace Hill.
Sure.
But that's just my own personal opinion.
Yeah.
You have a lot of people coming from the Cumberland Farms or back and forth, that kind of thing. So it just seems safer to me.
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly still run that further along. It's just, again, the more sidewalk you have, the more cost it is too. But that certainly could be a suggestion to just continue running it and pushing that further to the east.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Quickly, in the same vein, there are structures, there are houses that are right on the road.
Right.
on that south
Yeah,
side. So
there
it would
are.
make it difficult to take it all the way. But I
Yeah.
would agree, it'd be nice to have the sidewalk completely on the south side, all the way to the bridge.
Right. Yeah, you couldn't bring it all the way to
Downtown.
the bridge. When we were walking along there, we were looking at that. Like, that would be amazing if you didn't have to cross over, then cross back. But yeah, I think there are too many obstructions really as you get closer to the bridge to be able to run it entirely along that south side. So it's just how far are you moving it along there? But it's, yeah, definitely a valid point as well. Was there someone online that had a question? I thought I heard a voice on there.
Feel free to unmute if you have a question.
All right. Again, we can circle back to this, but let's move on to South Main Street.
Do you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi. My name's Steve Polkosher with Pompano Real Estate. We're the owners of the Justin Morgan Marketplace. I mean, I know you haven't got to that section yet. I have been talking with DuBois and King. I've got to step into another meeting at 7 o'clock, so I just wanted to let you know that we are fully on board with and to do whatever we can do to work with everybody to accomplish that end of the part of the plaza and that project.
Great. Thank you so much for signing on and sharing your support, Steve.
All right, thanks. Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye.
All right.
Okay.
Speaking of Area 3.
Speaking of,
Good timing. Let's jump
moving
into
on.
that.
Okay, so just so we're all oriented, the project area here is Gifford Medical. Here's the thrift store. That is where the sidewalk currently ends, at the thrift store. And so our project area is just up to the shopping center and including the driveway of the shopping center. What was that?
Elevator.
Elevator. Yes, there is another meeting that's starting at 7. So if you start hearing other people coming
so there
in,
may be a bit of
that's what it is.
commotion. Okay, so just a quick review of the conditions. We've got some really wide shoulders here. This is looking south toward the plaza. We're still looking south toward the plaza. There is a guardrail here. This is the looking sort of up and out the plaza driveway from the south side, and this is looking up the driveway. This is a Green Mountain Power facility right here. So there is an existing sidewalk on the south side of the plaza driveway. Okay, so alternative one is adding a 5-foot sidewalk on that east side. No major changes to the roadway, just kind of taking up the existing space of the shoulder to put in sidewalk. And then as we come around here, the sidewalk would be along the north side of the driveway. And then there would be a crosswalk to get down to a small island here. And then there's an existing crosswalk to get to the plaza, the covered plaza area right here. Can everyone see that? Got that? Okay. So in section, this is the existing conditions. We have a big shoulder, 11 feet, 9 feet. So we could fit a sidewalk in here easily and still have some large shoulder. As we get closer to the shopping center, it does narrow down to a 7-foot shoulder. We do need to have some clearance from the guardrail, 5-foot sidewalk, and then we just squeak in a 3-foot shoulder. So this is absolute bare minimum, which you don't want to hope everything goes perfectly in this kind of project, right? So it's really squeezing it in.
So one of the challenges in this area as well, as you, I'm sure you all know, the speed limit does change there. That's where it changes from a town road to the state highway. So again, you have more challenges on a state highway, including you have to have a minimum of 3-foot shoulders. That's for the plow trucks to come through with the wings that come out. So you cannot have any narrower than a 3-foot shoulder. So that's one of the limitations there. This is another one of the areas where we discussed, could you move the speed limit to past the shopping center as well, so you maintain that 25 mile an hour until you get past that and then further out.
So alternative 2 is very similar. It's exactly the same route. It's just that there would be a lane shift, so requiring repainting, restriping of this whole section in order to have enough of that shoulder width on the east side, especially where it gets narrower here, where the guardrail is. And so, yeah, this is just a bigger shoulder. And then we did discuss the potential of like, well, what about just coming to here and then crossing instead of trying to put this sidewalk in? But it is just way too far. It's a similar condition to the rec center where because of the hill, people have to pull way up so they can see. And then you have the car, like you cannot put a crosswalk in front of that car. You would then be out in the road, right?
Yeah.
So we just aren't really considering this as a viable option.
It would just be too unsafe of a condition.
Yeah, especially with the speed at which people are turning in from both directions. So we looked at it and we said, no,
And do you want to mention your
not a
initial
good.
conversation with Green Mountain Power?
What's that?
Conversation with Green Mountain Power.
Yeah, Green Mountain Power, this is actually, the sidewalk would, so let me go back to this plan. So in alternative 1 and 2, where we have the sidewalk running along the north side, the driveway right now, that turn lane is actually an easement. That is Green Mountain Power's property, like almost midway through this driveway. But we did speak to them and they do support, as long as, we keep the required distance. They support putting a sidewalk here and yeah, they're fine with it.
Initially on board.
Yeah, they're on board with it right now.
The alternative 1 in this area, where Andrea, can you go back to that one? That one, because of how because the shoulder is narrow, that one would require a retaining wall, because you do have a pretty steep drop right after that guardrail. So that one will require a retaining wall. So as opposed to the next one where we're proposing having those lane shifts, since you have a lot of shoulder on the west side of the road. Typically lane shifts can be more expensive than they sound because roads are crowned. So from the center line of the road, they're slightly crowned for the water to drain, but partially because of the repaving project that at least goes partway through this, we feel like that is a realistic option for here. And that, again, with that, even though part of it is state highway, that V-Trans would maybe more amenable to doing that as a continuation.
Okay.
Any questions regarding South Main before we start talking a little bit about the alternatives matrix? And we don't need to go into detail on that yet. And costs. We'll go back here.
Yeah.
I assume that would take quite a while before that would actually happen, the pouring of cement and reconstruction and striping. Potentially, could painting there be something much sooner? Just painting a sidewalk, basically? Basically in the same place that it would be, maybe with large stripes across it.
Yeah,
just
yeah,
delineating
the
it
temporary, yeah.
to there, at least to the crosswalk at Shaw's or something. I don't know who decides that or when, but that seems like a relatively inexpensive,
Yeah,
short-term alternative.
yeah, that's a great idea.
I think there would be a combination of the town and V-Trans. Anyone else? Okay, I can flip back over and talk a little bit about the matrix.
Right. I'll let you talk about one.
So the next slide, there's a lot of detail. We won't go into all of it, but I kind of explain what we look at. So one of the ways that we try to make decisions about which is going to be a preferred alternative is by putting together this alternatives matrix. And so we look at everything from, does this meet the purpose and need of the project, which is to improve connections, pedestrian safety. We are always required as part of this process to look at a no-build alternative. So we look at tree and vegetation, things like tree and vegetation impacts, potential historic or archaeological impacts, property impacts like mailbox, fences, look at how many adjacent properties they are, utility infrastructure impacts, how many overhead utility poles are there that may be impacted, have to be relocated. The lane shift, hydrants, catch basins, and then constructability and costs. We put in what are the actual lengths of sidewalk or striping, how many crosswalks, are there retaining walls, and then we have our preliminary opinion of cost. So our transportation engineer took a look at everything, broke it down to come up with rough costs. Once the preferred alternatives are selected, she'll go back, refine that a little bit more. There's always a contingency that's put in because often you don't know what you don't know, what's going to happen, are construction costs going to come up. But these are some preliminary costs to look at. So the top ones here, this is on Weston Street. They're all right around $1 million. That's really because of the length of sidewalk there. This one here, that's for just the signage and striping down around on the western portion of Weston and at School Street. For Park Street, those all in around the 500,000 range. And then South Main Street, you can see this anomaly at 2.4 million. That's the first one that I mentioned would need a retaining wall. If you didn't do a lane shift. With the lane shift, initially we're estimating about 500,000. Again, these could change. They certainly could go up, but this is for the purposes of this stage in the project, this is our initial estimates. Yes.
Just not to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm assuming that last cost estimate is assuming the repaving project incurs all the costs of moving the crown of the road, right? Like if that project doesn't happen.
No, I don't. We will confirm that. It's not intended to assume that,
Okay.
but we will make sure that it does include that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Have you determined, if built, which of the three would get the most pedestrian traffic?
That's a great question. So that kind of goes into, looking at phasing and which would be recommended for priority.
That would be in the master plan, how to prioritize the projects.
So the most people get to use it, like the idea.
So I mean, we have some of that data from our outreach earlier. What did people rank as the highest priority? Essentially went South Main Street, then Park Street, then Weston, the eastern portion, the western portion. Again, like I said, while that's good data to have, it's not. It doesn't include everyone. We went to the senior center and had some conversations with folks there. Obviously, their priority is going to be for Weston and may not necessarily be answering an online survey. So we want to acknowledge that there are other people that we're designing for that might not have all their voices heard.
But the good news is, if I may interrupt.
Please.
The Two Rivers in their study also included a few hundred people, and theirs were more online basis, but people were actually sending input in from not just necessarily from where they were going to sit in a specific place. And so that data is being looked at and reviewed, and once we have the final from Du Bois and King here, this will also be really helpful to be able to formulate, specifically the priorities.
Yeah. And like I mentioned before, as we were talking about Weston, that is, again, it's the highest because it's the longest distance. If you were to split that, again, just go from Main Street to Hale, that's going to reduce that cost again, and then starts to make that a little bit more competitive, at least from the cost standpoint, with the other alternatives. So it's not necessarily an easy decision to make for what the priority is, but I'm looking forward to seeing more of the information in the master plan.
Just
Yes.
a quick question, where are people walking to and from on Weston Street? Are they just exercising walking, or is there something that they're going to?
Both.
Well, both. Some people are just exercising, you're doing a loop, but there are a lot of people that going to the senior center that don't currently walk because it's not a safe condition that would enable them to be able to walk.
Yeah, I'm thinking more of the end of Weston Street, like why are people walking down Weston Street towards the railroad tracks?
To get to School Street, to
Get
go to
the
the park.
school.
Oh, thank you, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you do have a lot of houses that are along there, so residents in that portion. Folks that are going to be
That's what I was
wrapping
wondering if
around.
people went to the park the other way, thank you.
Yeah, I think really depending on where you live.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Could you break down where all the monies comes from? Taxes and grants and whatever?
So if you, through state funding, if you're to apply and get the construction grant from the state, that's an 80-20 match, 80 state and federal funding, 20 local funding. And again, Mark could likely speak a little bit more to the town side of things than I can.
Yeah, all I could say is going out to the various avenues for funding stack, and then trying to build it into the general fund budget.
So our property taxes go up some.
Always.
Can we all just have reappraisal?
Yeah.
So just want to talk about the next steps. Like I said, as the project team will review all of these alternatives again, taking into consideration public input that we got tonight and from throughout the project to determine those preferred alternatives. We'll do some refinements. There's definitely some great points that were and considerations that were brought up tonight that we want to take into account, make some refinements on them, update those associated opinion of probable costs, develop some phasing and implementation recommendations. Some of that, again, may not be able to be completely developed until the master plan is complete, but intended to have some synergy between those. There will be a period of review by the town and by VTrans, review of the entire report, and then we'll have a presentation at a select board meeting in either in November or December. And then it will go to the select board to determine, if and when to pursue final design and construction funding, not necessarily at that meeting, but then it's just moves on to the town. Our job is then done for this project.
So first of all, Two Rivers and D&K have been great partners for this project. It's really been fun. This is my first project of this size just to be a part of. It's worked really well, and it's all coming together in terms of timing really well. The first draft of the master plan is complete. The walk bike committee that's been very active in getting this on its way has an opportunity to provide feedback. That feedback is being funneled through the Office of Economic Development, me. That's then going to the town manager, and then the town manager is reviewing that with the highway department, with the police department. Economic development team is there. And from there, that will then it'll be refined, and this will happen in November and December, right around the same time. And there's even an opportunity for the committee to actually, not only will we review the feedback, but there should be an opportunity for us to actually sit down with them as well, so we can hear the questions verbally and actually, and then the draft will be sent to the board. Probably, it might even be the same month, or ideally it would be November, and then December would be when D&K came and made their presentation. So there was an overlap, because that's a lot to to throw down in one meeting. So, but it's been a really fun process.
So we have some legitimate concerns about the trailer park and number one, Wallace Hill, as far as access with the circular driveway and the runoff and the access points for that. Do we need to put them in writing, or have you noted those and you're gonna address those? What do you recommend for that?
We have noted if you would like to put them in writing, and say, send them to Mark, is probably the best way.
Any
And then-
feedback that you want to send to me, this definitely needs to be in writing, and I'll go get some cards and I'll pass them out so you have a way to get in touch with me.
Yeah, we've taken notes, but please, any additional
Okay.
feedback, we would love to have.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. And yeah, it helps with these projects. I know when, I can only speak for Du Bois and King, our transportation engineers do always refer back to the scoping studies that were done as they are moving forward into their construction projects, to be able to look at, you know, what were the issues that came up, what were the public concerns, and we make sure that we work hand in hand with them to so that these comments and this process doesn't just get lost or just sit on a shelf, that it stays active and really does move forward with the project. So that's always our goal. Any other questions or comments before we wrap up? And I'll stick around for a few minutes afterwards as well. If anyone just wants to come up and talk to me directly, I'd be happy to. Anyone online?
What's the email for comments?
Mark at randolphvt.org, and it's Mark with a K. You can also pull it up off the town website.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
I have 2 copies of the town plan, if anyone wants a hard copy.